He's here to run the show. It's Dan King. You should already know. Dan King is gonna run the show. Oh yeah, listen up now, here we go. Dan King, he is the king of the empire, the chief, the leader. He's here to take you higher. He brings the heat. All hail the Game Boy geek. Dan King is here to run the show. Oh yeah, you should already know. It's Dan King, and it's the top 100.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Welcome to my top 100 games of all time, and let's get started right away. My number 100. It's kind of a card game. Plays up to 8 players where you're going into ruins and using a pressure luck mechanism to see whether you're staying to try to get gems or going and keeping the ones that you've already got, in risk of losing them if you get hit by a rock slide or spiders or fire. Talking about Ink and Gold here, my number 100 game from Griffin Games, 3 to 8 players. And in this game, it's pretty simple. It's very easy to teach to people. I like it because it goes up to 8 players, and when there are 8 players, it doesn't take a whole lot longer to play than if you say have 4 or 5. And it's, in my opinion, it's better with the more players in this game. And it's fun and it's easy to teach. You can get a lot of non-gamers. We usually, when I have big party events at my house where we have like a lot of non-gamers that come over, this is one of the ones that I like to pull out because it's simple. You have 2 choices. Are you going to stay and try to get more gems, or are you going to go and keep the ones that you got? And that press your luck mechanism is fun. And it's always funny to see that one person that just keeps gambling, and hey, he might get the only the only gems there, or you get that person who's very conservative, and then when there's gems left over, you got to see which people are going to split them up. It's a cool little thing. It's a very quick game. It probably plays in about 20 minutes. Very light, easy decisions, but there are some fun things that happen, and it's great for all ages. My number 100, Ink and Gold. My number 99 is a game where you're trying to go over this island, which is a modular board. It can be put together a bunch of different ways, by the way. And you're driving these ATV vehicles around the island, and you're trying to narrow down by card play where the hidden treasures, the buried treasures are, and then you're going to go try and get them. There's a game called Tobago from Rio Grande Games. It plays up to 4 players, plays in about an hour. The components are magnificent in this game. There's palm trees, there's nice huts, there's these guys right here. They look awesome, and they great components. What I like about this game is, unlike in deduction games where you're trying to figure out who's the killer or who did this, in this game it like flips it on its head where you're playing cards to say where things aren't. So you'll play a card to say, hey, this treasure is not next to the ocean, or it's not next to a palm tree, or it is 1 space away from a statue. And so you're trying to very much narrow down where these different treasures are, and then you've got to try to get them by driving your ATV over there and race to them as well. It's a really interesting game. The other thing I love about this is the way the treasure's distributed. Depending on how many clues you gave for that treasure, when somebody gets it, let's say you gave 2 clues, you get to look at 2 cards secretly that's in that treasure pile and then put it back. They all get shuffled. And then when the cards come up, you get to go in order of whoever gave the last clue gets to go first. So you get to look at what's in there, and then when it comes out, you have the decision to make, I saw a 3 earlier, this is a 3, maybe there's something better. And that's a push your luck mechanism in there that makes this really, really interesting. It's good for all ages too. Kids like this as well. It's not too thinky, about an hour long. My number 99, Tobago. My number 98 is a 2-player card game that came out last year, and it's a reprinting and retheming and a little bit of re-implementation of an older game that's very popular. The old game was called Balloon Cup. This one is Pinata. 2-player game. This is one of the ones that my wife likes to play. You'll see a lot of games that my wife likes to play on this list because she's not really a gamer, but when she does like a game, it gets played quite a bit, which makes me like it. In this game, it's a 2-player card game. You're basically playing different suits of cards on your side of the board. You're playing a certain amount of cards depending on which stall you're playing on, and you're trying to play cards of the color of what candy is there. And you're essentially trying to beat the other person. Sometimes you'll need to throw the highest cards. Sometimes you'll have to have the lowest score on either side of the board, your side or their side, to get the candy and the pinatas. And then you're trying to get awards. Like, hey, if you have the whoever gets the first 5 yellow candies gets this award, and whoever gets the things like that. So you're trying to look at what's out on the board, what candies are there, what did they have previously, what do I have, what could they possibly be going for, and how many more of that color candy do they need to get that reward, because there's only one reward of every color. So it's a light game, it's quick, takes like 20 to 30 minutes really to play it. It's very easy to teach, but yet there's a little bit of a depth there. Quick and easy card game. Here we go here, Pinata. My number 97 is a 2-player game, takes 10 minutes to play, is kind of an abstracty game with a Western theme put on it, put up by Blue Island Games, called Longhorn, designed by my favorite designer, Bruno Cathala. You might hear his names a few more times on this list, and Vincent Dutray. So 2-player game, you're moving around. Interesting thing, the reason why I like this is it's quick. It's got a random setup of, there's these wooden cows of different colors that are put out on different places. It's a random setup every time of both the cows and the little tiles, and you're moving your sheriff around and pulling up all the cows of a certain color, and then moving your guys however many places adjacent that you picked up. But it's interesting because you're trying to not set up moves for your opponent, because if you clear open a tile, then you get to take a special ability that's on that tile. And another thing is the scoring is very interesting, is that depending on how many cows are left of a certain color that are out there, for instance, if there's only 1 cow left, that color of cow is worth 1 point, but if there's 7 cows left of that, it's worth 7 points. So it's really interesting how the points of how many of those go change during the game, depending on how many of them are getting taken. And trying to not set up your opponent. This game almost has a little bit of foreshadowing of 5 Tribes, the way that you're picking up a certain amount of cows and then moving somebody a certain amount. Very interesting, quick little game, Longhorn. My number 96 is a co-op game. It has a very realistic historic theme, which I talked about in my intro video that I like. We're talking about Freedom, the Underground Railroad, and this is by Academy Games. Plays up to 4 players, 1 to 4 players. It takes about 1 to 2 hours to play. And I love this game drips theme. All the cards have a lot of historic content. The rulebook has a ton of historic content. You can actually learn things about the history of slavery in the United States by playing this game, and I love that about this. You're reading the cards. Usually I kind of like flip past flavor text in cards. Not in this game. I actually loved learning about this when you're playing it. And you're trying to essentially free the slaves into Canada from the South, and you're trying to get away from the slave catchers. You're trying to raise enough money to get the support you need to go into the different ages. There's 3 different year ages that you go through the game, and things get unlocked, and different cards get unlocked as you go through them. And it's a co-op game. Everybody gets a secret role, a special role, and depending on that, will tell you what you may or may not want to do on your turn. You're working together to try to free the slaves. It's just for me, it's a very thinky game. It's very hard to win, even on the basic game, never mind the hard game. But great theme, great cards, great artwork in there, and it's a good solid co-op game. Freedom, the Underground Railroad. My number 95 is a real-time game. It's up to 4 players. You're in space. This is called Time and Space from Stronghold Games. In this game, you are trying to both get orders from other people and fulfill orders from other people. And in this game, you've got 2 sand timers. And these timers are used to grab goods, to create orders, to move your ship around to the different planets, the different areas, the ones that are controlled by your opponents. And you're constantly looking around to see what other people are offering, and should you be offering what they're going for and what things that they're getting ready to trade in for. And it's a very thinky game. There's a 30-minute, it's 30 minutes exactly. There's also like 11 or 12-minute like teaching game. Wow, this game has a lot of tension. They also have a really cool app that goes along with the game on the iPad and stuff. It has a cool soundtrack, counts down and things like that. And at first it seems like, oh, I'm just gonna sit here and wait for these timers to go. And then before you know it, you're going crazy thinking about what you should be doing. And I love real-time games. And this one is also a very good one. If you like real-time games, if you like the space themes, Time and Space is one to check out. My number 94 is a classic game designed by the late, great Sid Sackson. This is an economic game where you're trying to buy and sell shares of hotel chains. We're talking about Acquire here. Plays 3 to 6 players. It's got a little bit of an abstracty type of thing where you're drawing these tiles randomly, and you're placing these tiles on specific spots on the board to try to grow hotel chains. And then you're trying to, get always economics here. You're always trying to manage your short-term cash flow or the long-term gain of having a very big corporation at the end of the game. It's some good tension and good balance of trying to always get some cash. You're trying to, sometimes you'll want your hotels to merge and be bought out by somebody else. You might want them to buy you out so you can get some cash. And then later on, you're going to try to be having this big corporation that's eating all the other ones up to be the majority holder in those. There's some hidden information of who owns what and how much money people have that's interesting. So Acquire is a classic that's been around for a long time and still is very good to this day. Another Sid Sackson design here. It's a small card game called Venture. And in this game, you are trying to form corporations and conglomerates of corporations of different types of industries like sailing and automobiles and things like that. So it's sort of an economic game. And it's pretty much a card game where you're trying to line up as many of these different unique corporations in a specific conglomerate, but then they have certain markets that they're in. Different city markets, for example, and if you can get them all to line up in certain markets, it exponentially makes your score greater. So it's very puzzly where you're trying to get things. It has some take that as well, where you can steal or buy out corporations from other people and take them from them. You can also hide those underneath other corporations when you're trying to make sure that someone else doesn't steal those. You can reorganize your corporations to kind of shell them around and make your scores better. So there's a lot of thinking here. It's easy to teach, it's easy to play, but there is a lot of depth here, which is Sid Sackson's sort of forte in that regard. It's by Griffin Games, plays to 6 people and takes 45 minutes around that to play. Another great economic card game from Sid Sackson, Venture. My number 92 is a card drafting game. It got reprinted last year from Gamewright. We're talking about Sushi Go. It's plays for 2 to 5 players. Essentially, you're drawing cards up of different types of sushis and wasabi and chopsticks, and you're essentially picking them up and you're drafting them and you're selecting which one you want and you're passing them around, so you'll see some of the same cards multiple times. This is, for me, my favorite introduction to drafting game. Drafting was made popular by a game called Seven Wonders, and this game makes it, this is just a very simple version that's family friendly, or it's good for non-gamers to get into the hobby with learning what drafting cards is. The artwork is cute, the theme is fun, plays pretty quickly, so it's a great quick card game. Sushi Go. All right, my number 91, the last one for this video, is another simple card game that's been around for a while. Very easy to play. We call it No Thanks. Z-Man Games has it now in the US. 3 to 5 players, takes about 20 minutes to play. Very quick and easy to teach. I taught my father-in-law this game, who doesn't play games, and we just played it for hours on the cruise ship last week. It's so fun where a card comes up, and essentially you start with 11 chips, and you can do one of 2 things. You're either picking up the card or you're dropping a chip. Now, points are bad in this game, so you're trying to get the least amount of points, and the cards range up from 3 to 35 points, and a number 20 might come up, and people start going around and throwing chips on there because the chips are minus points. And so what you're doing is you're waiting for these chips to go around to see, when is it going to get good enough for me to take that? Then there's certain things that, those points are very bad for you, but if you get consecutive numbers in front of you, then you only take points of the lowest card. So that makes another interesting thing in the strategy as well. It's just a fun little game of seeing where that tipping point is, of when is that card going to get taken up. Will it go another round? Can I get a couple more chips out of these people for this? It's just really fun, simple, but you have a ton of fun. No thanks.
Here to take you higher. He brings the heat. Hard will the Game Boy geek. Dan King is here to run the show. Oh yeah, you should already know it's Dan King, and it's the top 100 boy.